It's so good. First of all, what type of question is this? Sufficient assumption. So what's the goal? Well, first of all, how do we know it's a sufficient assumption question? If, right? And it says the argument, the conclusion of the argument follows logically. Follows logically means
It's proven.
is proven, must be true. So like a strengthened question would have if, but it would just say something like which one following if true or if assumed would most help the conclusion or most strengthen the conclusion. This is saying no, the conclusion now follows logically. Okay, so because this is a sufficient assumption question, what do you need to do before you go into the answers?
Find the flaw.
Find the flaw, and there will be many or one?
Just one.
Just one. Because, well, I mean, I guess, you know, they could always write something weird and have two, but they'd have to fix both of those problems. So how many people read this argument and thought it was legit? And how many people read it and did not think it was legit? Okay, why didn't you think it was legit, Kristen?
I don't know how I got lucky because I've gotten a decent amount wrong today, but the first thing I thought was that national professional organizations don't have to be large.
Yes. It doesn't say anything about large, right, in the
Yeah.
first premise. I thought this argument was legit the first time I read it. I was like, okay, A to B, B to C, C to D, A to D. It's like, wait, sufficient assumption? Got to go back and find that one. It's got to be some leap because it's not an obvious leap, right? They gave us pretty much all the pieces, and so you just have to look. But basically what it says is, hey, if they build it, then people will hold conventions there. And this is what I thought initially. I thought it was like, oh, okay, and if they hold conventions there, then the visitors will increase. And if the visitors increase, then tax revenues will increase. Therefore, if they build the convention center, then tax revenues will increase. But if you go back, like you said, exactly right, Kristen, it says in the second premise, if several large conventions are held. So it's not saying if conventions are held, it's saying if several large ones are held, then we'll have visitors. So what's the correct answer going to be?
Bridging that gap.
Bridging the gap. If you have conventions, then they will be large or something like that, right? You got to connect this somehow. So my prediction would be this. And answer choice E is the only one that addresses that gap. If several national professional organizations hold their conventions in the convention center, those conventions will be large. Oh, okay, well, if they will be large, then if C, large. That's exactly what this does. That's the correct answer. Now, what answers were we debating? B? Okay, B. If the number of visitors to the city increases, then the amount of money spent by the visitors will increase. Why is this not a sufficient assumption, first of all? Anyone? Wait, what?
It doesn't have anything to do with taxes necessarily.
Doesn't necessarily have to do anything with taxes. I mean, we're probably thinking in our heads, oh, well, if visitors increase, it says that the taxes will increase. Therefore, maybe you almost did like a necessary assumption test. You're like, oh, they must be spending more money. That itself is not even necessary, right? You could have higher taxes. I don't know. I mean, this seems very likely. But again, you're applying the necessary assumption test. And here's something to think about. They said outright that if visitors increase, taxes will increase. So we don't need to fix this part of the argument. Like, we don't know why the taxes will go up, but it doesn't matter. We don't need to explain why. We're just told this is true, so we'll just say, okay, great. And it's not sufficient because even if this were to help this premise in some way, this gap remains, and thus this conclusion remains unproven. Okay. Was anyone tempted by D? It's sort of the same problem because if the conventions are held or large ones, then the visitors will increase. We don't need to assume that the old ones will stay. All we care is that the number will go up. And they told us it will, so it will. All right, any other questions about any of this? Okay.